welcome back to Singularity. I'm very excited because I've been learning about music. I have played it a lot in the time since I last recorded, but first of all, I've got all of these things to level up again because of the whole Singularity situation that occurred. So, the Milky Way. I have read that one already, and now I've got a visualization of Beyond over there. Let's go with ozone layer. I've read that one in the past as well. Muscles. Muscles are fibrous tissue in an animal's body with the ability to contract. This action enables the muscle to move, in turn moving the bones that are attached to them. Okay. Flagellum. A flagellum is a tail-like appendage that protrudes from a cell body and helps it move around. Nervous system. I don't have jellyfish yet, as far as I know. Let me actually do this one first, because it's very cheap. Filter feeding. A passive way of finding nourishment involves having nutrients filter through an organism's body. This is the feeding method of choice for shellfish, krill, and sponges. Okay. Nervous system. The nervous system is a network of cells that send stimuli through an organism's body in the form of electrical impulses. It is controlled by a central brain. Chromosomes are DNA molecules containing genetic material. They preserve genomic sequences and allow for traits to be passed from parent to offspring. Polypeptides. When amino acids bond together, they create a chain that becomes an integral building block in creating proteins. Jellyfish. The simple act of swimming gave many organisms the ability to move from one location to another for the first time. Asexual reproduction. Similar to mitosis, asexual reproduction is the process by which an entire organism is produced from a single parent. Some types of asexual reproduction are budding, sporification, and parthenogenesis. Sexual reproduction, a long method of cell multiplication involving both meiosis and mitosis. Sexual reproduction combines genetic information from two individuals of different types or sexes to create a new organism. I can get sponges now. Alright. Good enough for now. Let's see what's going on in music, and I have a lot of things to read in music because I got a lot. Also, I have a theory here. This, I was talking about how it spirals, but it spirals and it comes up to this, and then it goes up. I think this is a treble clef, or it's supposed to be, because this, it's got this little curl, and then this spiral thing going up here, and so I think it would go like that if I were to actually finish it, which I don't think I'm going to be able to, but I got a new thing here. So, I'll read that first because I just got it. Lyre, lyre. The oldest string instruments humans have uncovered are the lyres of Ur, a group of instrument fragments that date back at least 4,500 years. Alright, let me figure out where I started. Here. Okay, rhythm. A consistent timing between notes forms the core of a song. These patterns are called rhythmic structures and are one of the main identifiers of a musical style. And then we have pitch. A note's frequency is directly related to how high or low a note is. When these pitches are arranged in sequential order, they create a scale. Then we had African polyrhythm. Utilized predominantly in sub-Saharan African music, polyrhythm employs several separate rhythms at once to create a unique and complex pattern. Notation. By using representative notes and symbols, music can be written down. This allows it to be preserved while permitting a composer to prescribe how a given song is to be played. And then I got over here, waves of sound. Sound is a simple vibration forming waves that move back and forth. How might humans wield this energy? All right, and then I had early innovations. Life in the Paleolithic era was a continuous fight for survival. Even so, early humans were able to find meaning in their surroundings and found time to express themselves through sound. Sticks and rocks. Anthropologists theorized fallen branches and small stones were likely the first items to be used as instruments. Banging these commonly found objects together would create sound, an early precursor to the drum. Bone flute. The world's oldest known instrument was constructed from the left thigh bone of a cave bear. Discovered in a Slovenian cave, historians believe this flute was made by Neanderthals 60,000 years ago. Also, I want to check really quick what this... Okay, that does instruments. Okay, next I had semitones. The smallest interval on a Western scale. Semitones represent the minimum change of pitch, still recognized as distinct notes to the human ear. On a piano, they can be observed in the distance between each adjacent key. Okay. Write that down. Now that humans have been creating songs, how do they ensure that future generations will be able to hear them? Well, I would presume by writing them down. I don't know how to pronounce this. Arabic maqam, maybe? As a system of scales, modulations, melodic phrases, techniques, and conventions, the maqam is the backbone of much Arab music. Maqams use even smaller intervals than Western music, going as tiny as the quarter tone. Okay. That's interesting, because this was saying minimum change of pitch still recognized as distinctive notes to the human ear. So is this saying that quarter tones are used, but they're not obviously distinct? That's interesting. I'm not sure. Okay. Chords. A chord is formed when 3 or more notes of different frequencies are produced at once. When played sequentially, chords form the harmonic structure of a song. Instruments. Humans use many different objects to produce sound, ranging from bagpipes to kazoos to triangles. Each instrument has its own timbre, so striking the same note on a drum will sound different than playing it on a flute. Yeah, definitely. This is another one I don't know how to pronounce exactly. Let me get this first. No cameras. Okay. Chinese Xierlu? Maybe. I'm not sure how this is said. In ancient China, bamboo pipes were constructed for tuning purposes. When blown, they produced the 12 lu, or fundamental pitches of an octave. These pitches formed the foundations of Chinese music theory. That's interesting that they have 12 in an octave. Alright. Wind. Whether you're playing a brass or woodwind, both use airflow as the medium for producing sound. You can be vibrating your lips against a mouthpiece or blowing air into a reed, but in each case, the same energy is being transmitted through the instrument's hollow body. Voice. The human body is equipped with its own natural instrument, the voice, capable of producing sounds in a multitude of timbres. It is as much a musical instrument as any physical tool. Okay. Ocarina. Hey listen, the ocarina is an iconic globular flute originating in Italy as a carnival whistle. They are also known as sweet potatoes due to their shape and original orange color. That's very funny. I've never heard them called called sweet potatoes before. Okay. Clay tablets. The earliest pieces of musical writing were preserved on clay tablets. Notes were carved into these slabs to maintain compositions for future reference. That's very old. That's cool. Okay. Octave. Measuring a distance of 12 semitones, an octave often begins and ends on different pitches of the same note. These two sounds are perceived as identical due to the second note being double the frequency of the first. Okay, so I wonder in this one where it talked about the 12 pitches in an octave, if that's including the semitones. Because this is also talking about 12. But when you think about them in like the lettered notes, it's 8. Anyway, if an instrument uses keys, buttons, or levers to produce sound, it's part of the keyboard family. This means many string, electronic, and percussion instruments overlap with this category. Interesting. So harp, if you play concert harp, which has pedals, would not be a keyboard, but lever harp might be keyboard because technically it has levers. I don't know. That seems like a little bit of an oversimplification. Anyway, percussion. Striking, shaking, or scraping an object with enough energy can create a powerful sound. Some believe that the earliest music was made this way, as drums could have been crafted with hollow tree trunks and animal skin. Alright, electrophones. That's an interesting word that I'd never heard before. In the early 20th century, a new type of instrument was created to produce sound with weak electrical signals. While too weak to be heard on its own, the signal is strengthened when connected to an amplifier. Pentatonic scale. Containing just 5 notes per octave, pentatonic scales were developed independently in a variety of early civilizations such as ancient China and Greece. This suggests they have a universal appeal. Okay. Autotune. Originally meant to correct mistakes in musical recordings, autotune is an electronic tool used to alter pitch. Artists like Cher popularized its ability to distort sound and create distinct vocal effects. Random thing about autotune. I think it's so fascinating to watch people do live performances where they have a vocal distortion. There's a particular artist that I'm thinking of where he was performing and he had 2 different microphones because part of it is heavily distorted, and so he would sing into one microphone for part of the song and then switch to holding the other microphone. It was really cool to see. Anyway, melody. Shaped by pitch and rhythm, a melody is a series of notes arranged into a musical phrase. This is the part of a song you tend to remember fastest. Alright, the king of instruments. The organ is an impressive instrument often found in Christian cathedrals. By sending pressurized air through rows of pipes, it produces sound that booms through a given space. I know someone who plays organ. Alright. String. Some instruments have strings stretched over a hollow chamber. A player plucks, strums, or bows the strings, creating vibrations. The sound bounces against the inside of the body and is amplified outward. Xylophone. Commonly used in the music of Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America, the xylophone is a set of tuned wooden bars struck with sticks or mallets to create sound. And then finally, where was it? Synthesizer. The synthesizer is a machine that can electronically produce and alter sounds. Composer Wendy Carlos brought it to the mainstream with her adaptations of classical music, paving the way for modern-day digital production. Fascinating. All right. I'll come back to this. This is gonna be very slow. Okay. I think I'm very close to finishing Mesozoic again. So... Perfect. Perfect. Yes. I can rank it up now too. Okay. I will do that then. And then we have you. And then we have you. Perfect. I got a lot from that. Cool. Asteroid time! I'm sorry, dinosaurs, again, for like the, what is this, 14th time? A lot of times. Still nothing that automates my one that I want automated. But lots of mutagens, so that's good. Stegosaurus is one of the ones that I have to upgrade. Perfect. I will leave them all at 50 until I get everything first, and then... pretty fast right now, which is nice. It's going to go much slower starting probably now, but that's okay. Yep, slower already. Okay, but that's fine because I can just start working on these. And I'll just get as many as I can of them for now. Okay. I'll rank up that for now. And I want that one automated so bad, but I cannot have it, unfortunately. Alright, I will return to this in a bit. Ah, yes! Oh my gosh, actual progress here, even though I'm gonna get rid of it immediately because I need to get all this other stuff. Ah! It's fine. That was fast. All gone. Everything that I waited so many days for. I can't really say I worked hard for it because I just didn't do anything, but you know. Alright. Yay! Enceladus is going fast, which is perfect because that's one of the ones I really need. And it gives a lot, so that's ideal. Okay. Could do Europa. I need to do Venus, but Venus is expensive. Everything's expensive now. It's fine. Enceladus is so expensive, so now everything after Enceladus is gonna be even worse. Also, do this. Any others? Probably not. Venus is being slow. I need more sulfuric. I don't need more sulfuric cloud cards. I need more dark matter to get more. Alright. In the last couple of videos, I've had goals of getting certain things done. I think mine for today is going to be Venus, because I think it's the most realistic. I don't think I can get the whole Enceladus and Titan as well thing, but I just want to get Venus. But possibly also Callisto or Europa. Well, Callisto is actually the one where I'm close to being... Yes! Thank you, Ganymede. Callisto is the one where I'm actually close to finishing. I can speak English. The requirement thing for it, so... I don't know what it's gonna give me, but I feel like whatever it does would help with the whole situation here, so hopefully. feel like I should level up Ganymede a little bit more too. Especially because it's doing this right now. There we go. Yeah, Titan and Enceladus are so expensive, but I only need 3 more for Enceladus. I have actually a lot of cubes right now, so I think I will actually multiply that for once. Just because I really want to try and get more of these done. And I still have a ways to go with everything. Perfect. This one's still not automated. I want it. I have so many mysterious cards that I don't know what they are for, but I need them. Also, I should start working on Stegosaurus since that's the one that I actually have to upgrade at this point. Also, it goes very fast, so, you know, that's useful. This is actually very satisfying. This one I've always been complaining about recently about how slow it seems now. But this is actually not that bad. Probably because I just started, so I can make a lot of progress because things aren't that expensive yet. But I just need a lot of mutagen because I have so many things that I can rank up right now, but I just don't have the mutagen to do it. Alright. Oh, I know what I need to do, actually. I'll come back to primary, but the place, the little, like, center place has a lot more now here. See? Lots of things. Oh, if you click them, they make noises. The drums is the only one that sounds good. The others sound like you handed it to a toddler. I mean, like, sounds good on its own without, the rest of them playing, just if you click them. Alright. Things are going slowly here. I need more of the instrument thing. I need to level up the instruments so that I can get more songs, which are the little CD thingies. Alright. Progress. Very slow progress, but progress. Yeah. I want this. Anyway, I have things I need to do in primary. Okay. Let's see. Okay, coral. Coral is a marine invertebrate with a hard calcium carbonate exoskeleton. Colonies of corals that grow together can create reefs, diverse underwater ecosystems that provide a home for many sea creatures. Vertebrate. Vertebrae are bones that protect the spinal cord. They are the literal backbone of evolution. Okay. Radial symmetry. Organisms that can be divided into identical pieces around a central point. This form of symmetry is more complex than bilateral symmetry. Okay. Bilateral symmetry. Organisms with identical left and right sides, a head and a tail display bilateral symmetry. This adaptation helped early organisms to develop more complex nervous systems. Interesting. Okay. I could get a fish now. Cnidocytes. Something. One of the first organic weapons. These are explosive cells that fire out a toxic harpoon for self-defense and hunting. Pigment spot. A light-sensitive receptor, the pigment spot was a primitive eye. It allowed early organisms to tell light from dark. Cocoon. Fertilized eggs are encased in a cocoon within a flatworm's body. The cocoon is released into the ocean waters. The cocoon provides nourishment to the egg, which will develop and hatch later. I didn't know that cocoons were an aquatic thing too. Okay, nerve cord. The nerve cord is a bundle of nerve fibers that run down an animal's body. Alone they form a simple version of a nervous system. Gills, I know for sure I've read that before. Fish egg. A self-contained life support system. No. A self-contained life support system designed to help an embryo survive in a wet environment. The egg increases the reproductive rate of fish. Fish eggs are jelly-like and sometimes semi-translucent. Okay. Okay. I want enough. Oh, I should have doubled that. Oh well, I'll do that later. Yeah, these are chaotic. I think the music in Beyond is my favorite of all of the ambient musics of the ones that are not the temporary ones. Alright. These guys take so long now, but that's okay. Okay, I want to get either Venus or Callisto by the end of this to be ranked up all the way to what I need it to be. Because Titan and Enceladus are so expensive, so I know I can't get this new thing yet, but... aha! Perfect. I can, however, level up Saturn right before it finishes, so might as well. I love how cheap it is now. I mean, it's not, but comparatively to some of the other things. Compared to what it should be if it wasn't being discounted, it's very cheap. Especially because it gives so much. Stegosaurus. This one's interesting how it's just completely dark outside of the area where everything is. I want the other one automated so bad, because there's still one that just isn't. Alright. This guy needs to be automated soon, because having to click it every single time is a bit of a nuisance. I have so much to collect of this, but that's okay. At least it's not having to have it all at once like I have to with Stardust, because that is gonna take so long. Except if I leave it and then just don't play for a while, and then come back, then I'll have it, and then I'll spend it all. Because it doesn't say I can't immediately spend it after I get it to that level, because then that requirement will be done already. I want to get new cards, because there's so many. There's this, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this. I want this one specifically because I really, really, really want it to be automated. It's really nice to actually have a progress bar on here that's, like, visible. Because a lot of the others, I need so much that it just doesn't even show up at all. Alright, I'll come back to that. I feel like I need to be clicking things for music. Also, okay, random thing. I'm not quite related to music, but kind of. I'm super excited because the next one after music is Lurking in the Dark, and it's about deep sea life, and that seems really cool. I don't think I personally would want to explore the deep sea, like, in person, but I do think it's very fascinating. Deep sea life is just so weird in terms of, like, evolutionarily, the fact that things survive there is so interesting because that environment is kind of hostile for most types of life on Earth. Would not be able to survive there at all. But yet there are things down there that live there. It's also interesting because it's an environment that allows so many creatures to get so much larger than some of their counterparts in shallower areas. Anyway. Alright, I need this one because then I'll get this, whatever it is, and also I'll be able to unlock other things because currently I've unlocked everything that I can so far. So much clicking again. I'm looking at this picture of the lyre and I'm trying to figure out how... Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay. I'm trying to figure out how that looks like the constellation. Because Lyra is more like a glorified rectangle. Kind of. It isn't perfectly rectangular, but it's definitely not this, like, curved kind of ornate thing either. Since I don't need it for anything, I might as well just level these up, I guess. These really, that one's insignificant. Not that one, maybe. Yeah. Okay, I'll come back to this one a little bit later too. Okay. Okay, I know I've read that one before, and I've read that one before. I think I might have read this one before, but I don't remember. Cold-blooded. Cold-blooded animals rely on external heat sources to control their body temperature. This allows them to have conservative metabolisms and save energy, but can also make them vulnerable to overheating or freezing. Okay. Cartilaginous skeleton. Some aquatic animals, such as sharks and rays, have skeletons made of cartilage instead of bone. This means that they are more durable, flexible, and buoyant. And then I can get sharks. Yeah. The sharks are cool. I can get... Yay. Ah, I want Enceladus so bad. It's fine. I will get it eventually. There's so much I need to rank up. Over the course of this recording, Cosmos started on his bed and he's just kind of melted off of it onto the floor. Oh, hi. You heard me talking about you. Snoring down there. Enceladus is so close to being leveled up, but I can't afford it. It only got 3 levels left, but they're all so expensive. only need 6 more levels for Callisto, but it's also very expensive. Hopefully when Saturn finishes, I'll get a lot more. Jupiter too, but Jupiter is not as much. It's faster though. Yes. This is exactly what I need. I'm gonna actually quadruple this for the interest of getting this done and for the interest of I have so many of these things right now. Cube thingies, whatever they're called. Perfect. Alright. I'm getting close to getting Callisto leveled up again. I only need 4 more levels total for Callisto. Let's go. Cosmos went back on his bed again. See, my progress bar is totally gone on this. It's satisfying having at least a little progress bar in Mesozoic. There's so much. This automated thing. Yes. Okay. Hurrian hymn number 6. The world's earliest surviving melodic composition was discovered in the ancient Syrian port of Ugarit. Engraved on a clay tablet and composed for lyre, it was written around 1400 BCE. Okay. Theory, innovation, and instrumentation come together to create what may be the first melody ever composed. This officially marks the beginning of a lifelong relationship between humanity and music. Nice. Okay, I don't have either of those things yet. Okay, this side. This distance, there we go, okay. I don't know if I'll be able to get what's next in time for the end of this, but I will read it anyway. Humans have learned how to create music for themselves. Where can they go from here? I wonder if songs was just used for these things that were the internal part, and now it's going back to whatever those are called, notes, for this outer section of treble clef for the upgrades there, because this is back to being notes. I don't know. Unrelated, but because I go on tangents when I have to do tons of clicking, I figured might as well do that. I recently ordered, there we go. I recently ordered some equipment for professional voiceover work, because I've been in this voiceover class and we learned how to use the equipment. Cosmos is snoring very loudly. And it's something that I really want to get into more than I currently have been doing. So I'm very excited. I had it delivered to my parents' house since I'm going to be moving again very soon. And I'm going to be going there for the summer, but I'm very, very excited about it because I am on several casting websites for both voice acting and voiceover work, but also camera and stage acting, so I'm very, very excited about that. I definitely have learned a lot in this class about more professional recording setups, and all of the projects that I've done so far have been just like student projects doing voiceover for something pretty casual, so I haven't needed anything super high quality beyond just like being able to record in a quiet place and edit the file to be the way they want it. But now it's like, okay, here's how to do this professionally with like professional jobs that you could get from an agent and stuff like that. So very excited about it. I think I like voice acting as like a character more than voiceover, just because I like acting in general. But voiceover as a whole is fascinating as well. I mentioned in a few other videos that I did a commercial reel demo for voiceover commercials, which is definitely interesting. I realized that I started talking in a certain type of pitch after that, because of the whole like sort of inflection pattern that you hear a lot in commercials. I started kind of doing, but yeah, it's very interesting, and I feel like it's also so different than, I mean, obviously camera and TV work is very different from each other. I've had training in both of those as well. But it's really interesting because on stage, obviously, or maybe not obviously if you aren't familiar with theater and that kind of performance style, you have to be so expressive. You have to be really big with your movements, with your voice, with your facial expressions. You have to exaggerate your movements a lot because you have to reach an audience who's far back, depending on the size of the performance space you're using. But in TV and film, on camera work, you have to be very, very small and move as little as possible in most situations, because if you're doing a close-up shot, then the camera can't keep track of you if you're moving around a lot really dramatically, and expressions that might come across as normal on a stage come across as way over the top if you do the same level of emoting on camera. And so for me that was interesting learning, because I'd done stage first and then went to a studio where I learned camera stuff, and so that was very, very interesting because that was something that I hadn't really thought about. There's a lot of other differences, but that's like the main one in terms of how big you need to be for it. And voiceover is interesting because with voice acting, you usually, when you're playing a character, have to be really over the top into that character, especially if it's like animation or cartoon type character. You go way over the top with the character a lot of the time. But you have to have this really big presence and really captivating performance only using your voice, not using your face or your physicality at all. And actually, you do use physicality. There's a lot of clips you can see of actors who are doing voiceover work behind the scenes doing physical movements while they're doing it. And it's not to say that you're not, because physicality is very important, but you have to do the physicality but still convey it just through your voice, because no one's gonna see you, they're gonna see the animated or voiceover imagery put to your voice, but not you. So it's very interesting to kind of learn all these different types and kind of keep track of the differences and how to try and perform that specific type. Yeah, it's definitely really fascinating. The problem I have is that I have a pug who snores whenever I do recordings for YouTube, so if I need a really soundproof place for other types of recordings, then who knows? But, yeah, I feel like if I got an actual recording studio and made him stay outside, he would be upset about that. But that's okay. I'm not at that level quite yet. I mean, it would be great to be, but I'm just still getting started in that. This is something I've talked about too in other situations. I don't know if I've talked about it on the channel, but I think being autistic is interesting when it comes to performance like this, because the way that I interpret things is sometimes different than how an holistic person would interpret something, or how I would portray something is sometimes different. And also, I know a lot of autistic people aren't aware of their facial expressions sometimes, and for me, I think I have awareness to some extent, but I often think that I'm emoting more than I am. And it comes across as, like, subtle and toned down, I think, compared to what I think it is, because it seems over dramatic, because compared to how I normally am, it is. I'm not sure exactly. I want to get a coach to tell me exactly what it is, because I feel like there's something about how I'm either interpreting scripts or how I'm portraying a certain thing that is making it come across not the way a non-autistic person would expect it to be. And because of that, I feel like I need more training in how to perform a non-autistic role like a non-autistic person performing a non-autistic role, because I mask a lot, and so a lot of people don't know that I'm autistic by looking at me. Even relatives who've known me for decades. When I was at a family reunion last summer, I was talking to a relative who I don't see often, but, like, we've known each other and I like her. We have good conversations when we do see each other, and she had no idea that I was autistic. So I'm pretty good at camouflaging it, but I feel like that means that I can pass for not autistic in certain situations, but if I'm trying to play a not autistic character, I sometimes don't know how to play that because I'm already playing trying to be non-autistic, so then trying to figure out how to play the character on top of the other masking, I think is sometimes a little bit complicated. I don't know if that's making any sense. It's kind of hard to explain, and I don't know if that's what it is, but I feel like sometimes I definitely think I interpret scripts differently than other people, because when I did, when I've been doing this voiceover class, there are a couple of times where I've looked at a script and been like, how do you read this in a way? Like, we've been practicing animation scripts and also video game scripts, and there was one, I believe it was from a video game, not a animation, but it was, it was a video game. It was like a person guiding you to do things in a game, and it was like a little voiceover role. And I was reading it, and I was like, how do you read this where it isn't unbelievably condescending? Because it was like, oh no, there are some fish in the boat. We should get them out. And then it was like, good job, you found all the fish. And it's just like, I was like, this reads so condescendingly. The way that it's worded. And it wasn't just that, there was more later that came across as condescending. But my teacher basically, I asked her, like, how do you read this without it coming across like that? And she was like, just be, I feel like for you specifically, reading it really genuinely would make it come across. So, like, oh no, there are some fish, like, you know. And, so that makes sense. But, all these ones I clicked are things that I've read before, so that's why I'm not reading them. But yeah, it's interesting. And then there was another one where the punctuation of a certain script for a commercial was weird, and it was for a pregnancy test, and I'm not gonna say the brand because this was an actual, like, radio or TV commercial that actually ran, so I was just recording it for demo purposes. But the last line of it was, what you need, period, to know. And I was asking my teacher, this is saying you need this object to know if you're pregnant, not you need to know this commercial, right? And he was like, oh, that's interesting. This could definitely be interpreted two very different ways. And so I ultimately read it as what you need is referring to the product, and then to know is about whether or not you're pregnant, which completely changed how I ended up reading that particular line. So, yeah, because I feel like sometimes if I don't have a second opinion on things like that, it's like, okay, here's how I would automatically read this, but what if it's a completely different meaning? Yeah, that class has definitely been very interesting because we've learned a lot about, like, the business side and the technology side as well. Like, we've learned editing, we've learned different software for recording and different equipment that our teacher recommends for recording and stuff like that. So that's been super informative. Yeah. I'm kind of sad that class is almost over. By the time that this video is posted, it will be... I have recorded so many videos in advance right now, who knows? Maybe this video will be out by the time I start fall classes. I have a lot pre-recorded, but yeah, it's been fun. I'm kind of sad that it's gonna be over. Although, in the summer, hopefully I'll have more time to actually work on real voice acting roles, not just for a class, because I won't be dealing with all my classes and stuff, so. Although then again, I will be in my parents' house, where 3 people and a bunch of animals also live, so who knows if it will be quiet enough. I mean, when I do recordings, they're just for YouTube. There's always background noise. I try to do it in the middle of the night, but there's always our bird clock makes noises if I record for any time where it passes an hour. Which honestly is pretty funny. But one time, I was recording Stardew Valley at my parents' house in the middle of the day because my parents were not home. And they have a landline phone as well as cell phones, and I swear in this one, like, 40-minute recording, the landline rang 3 times. And I kept having to pause the game so that I could edit it out later, because my parents' voicemail has their phone number in it, so I didn't want to obviously publish that. But it was just like, okay, really, 3 phone calls? They can go like a whole days without receiving phone calls on this phone, and then suddenly I'm recording and they call 3 times. So yeah, during the summer, if I'm recording, it will definitely be after midnight. Yeah. It's definitely interesting, though, because I think my sister and I both have channels, and we might be doing some recording together, which I'm kind of excited for because I am gonna double it this time. Because we haven't really done that very much in person. We've done... I did Callisto, yes! We've done Raft together, and that's pretty much it. Up to this point. What is it? I'm so curious. Okay. Titan. Europa. Venus. Nice. Oh, I want it now. Okay. I'm gonna just do some for Venus too. I'm getting so close on Venus. This is taking so long. They're all so expensive. Alright. Okay, I can do stuff with Europa right now, because it's pretty cheap. So, I might as well do that for a little bit. Oh yes, thank you. I have to still rank up Europa another entire time after this first one, so this is definitely gonna get expensive, but that's okay. Saturn is almost finished, which I'm very excited about. Saturn is so close. Okay. Yes. Yay! I love ranking up these guys. So satisfying. Something is here. What is it? This one. Medicean moons. Today we call the 4 largest moons of Jupiter the Galilean moons, but when Galileo first discovered them, he dubbed them the Medicean moons, after the powerful Medici family who controlled Florence in the Renaissance. Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't know that. There's so much here that I just don't have in the middle. Okay. No idea what that is. We'll see. Okay. What do I want to rank up? Okay. Okay. I don't think I'll be able to afford what's next, but that's okay. I think I am right about the fact that this is supposed to be a treble clef, though. Which is now making me wonder, if you go back to the others, if they are supposed to be a specific thing. I never finished them, so I don't know what they were ultimately supposed to look like. I also don't know if some of them had a specific shape that's really strongly associated with what it was. So... I want to look at these guys for a second, because they look cool. They're slightly pulsating, which is interesting. Oh, and then on the back wall, it's like sound level meter things. I'm not sure what those are actually called, but that looks really cool. I wish this showed, like, how many the people above and below have. What is that? That's one of the... Oh, I know what that is. Never mind. What the heck is this? Like, blue sun thing? Is that a thing in this? I don't know. I don't know where that would be. If that is a thing. Not these. Blue star. Okay. Okay. That's what that is. Interesting. That looks cool, that pattern. Interesting. I don't want any of these, but these are very interesting to look at. Galactic Nursery. I'm so far zoomed in this. So then is... No, that's a different thing. Never mind. This is getting progress and I'm excited. Okay. Anyway. I got distracted about blue stars. Another thing about voiceover that's different from a lot of other types of acting is that you're acting alone a lot of the time, so you don't have another scene partner to get energy off of, and you don't know how the other person is going to necessarily say their line. So you just kind of have to hope for the best, but it also means you do have to be so much more high energy with yourself, just in a room alone. And then you also have to make yourself emotional, and you have to make yourself, like, respond with the right emotion. I had a rehearsal for a show that I was in where there was a scene where the character that I was talking to and I were getting in kind of a fight, and we had kind of been doing it a little bit toned down and like still passionate, but also like quiet frustration, not like yelling. And kind of late in the rehearsal process at one point, we were both getting more emotional in it, and we just started building off each other until we were almost screaming at each other. Because we both just got so into this scene. And it was really interesting, but there's none of that in voiceover for the most part. You're in a room, and you're like, okay, well, they're angry, but what way are they angry? Are they quiet angry? Are they like, I'm gonna murder you in your sleep, but I'm not gonna let you know that angry? Are they like screaming angry? Are they crying angry? There's so many different like sub-emotions to emotions. It's like, how do you know how to respond to this? So yeah, that is definitely an interesting thing to try and think about when you're dealing with voiceover. Although, one of the convenient things about that is if you do have to get really emotional, you can record that part of the session after having enough time to get the emotions and be able to bring that, because I've definitely had moments in rehearsals, luckily not during shows, where even though I've been running through the whole play and have followed the emotional arc of the story, it gets to the point where I'm supposed to be really emotional, and for whatever reason it's just not coming naturally. Because sometimes I'm, like, distracted, or I've been given a note and I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate that or whatever. And so, if you're just recording alone in your room, you can go make yourself cry and then come record. I don't know. The one thing we've learned about that I don't really think that I'm going to try to pursue specifically is audiobooks, because I really love books and I really love reading, and I have a whole channel separate from this one about books called Reading Realm, if you didn't know. But I do have that. But reading aloud, and especially reading like novels aloud, I don't want to do, because number one, reading aloud, I read faster than I talk a lot of the time, and so trying to, I mean, I mess up reading things all the time in this game, but trying to record that for a whole book and trying to, like, give characters distinctive voices and stuff, I just don't feel like I'm at that level yet, and I don't know if that's something I'd ever want to do, because that is also such a time-consuming thing to read a whole book and record and edit the whole book. And audiobooks are typically paid by only the finished time of the book, so like how long the listener would be listening to it, not how much time the voiceover person spent to actually record and edit. And so I feel like that is just so time consuming, and so, like, you have to try and be consistent over multiple days with how you're sounding, because presumably you aren't reading a whole novel aloud in one day. Maybe you are. I don't know. My teacher who does audiobooks professionally doesn't do it all in one day. But yeah. I also just prefer to read rather than listen to audiobooks. There are a few exceptions, and sometimes if I have already read a book, I like to listen to an audiobook of it, or if I'm driving or doing a lot of like housework stuff, I'll sometimes listen to audiobooks. But I like to kind of picture characters' voices and way they say things for myself. And I feel like when I listen to audiobooks, it's whoever's narrating it, playing the voice roles of these people. And most of them that I've listened to are very, very good at it. But it's just like, huh, that's not the voice I pictured for this character. And there's nothing wrong with that. If it's not what I pictured. It's probably, what I pictured probably isn't what the original author pictured it would be either, so I don't know. The one exception is if I publish my own novels, or if I ever did an audiobook of my poetry, I would probably do those myself, just because I like to use names that are not I've definitely seen names that are worse to pronounce, but there are names that could have multiple ways people would maybe guess they're pronounced, and I have a specific way that I envision them being pronounced or emphasized, and because of that, I would maybe do an audiobook of my own book. Also with poetry, especially if that was ever to be an audiobook, because I have published those already. A lot of them are very personal, because that's how I feel poetry is for me, at least, is it's very specific to me. Especially from my second book, Shells on the Windowsill. And I just feel like hearing someone else read them would be really weird. Especially because poetry is one of those things where I feel like every poet has a very specific idea of the rhythm and emphasis of words in their poem, but a person who is just hired to read that book may not have that same interpretation or that same pattern to their reading. So yeah, that's definitely interesting to think about now that I've mentioned it. That's not what I meant to click on. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Also, I feel like poetry is easier to read as an audiobook than a whole novel with so many different types of just everything. Like narration and characters and everything. Sometimes sound effects, if there's like onomatopoeia words and stuff like that. These are all things that I've read before. Oh, I can have mammals now. I'm almost back to getting my turtles. Turtles are so important. Nah. Oh, I can get a lot per click right now. Well, kind of. In the scale of things, it's not all that much. But yeah. Oh, the other thing, one of the casting websites I'm on keeps auto algorithm picking me to offer me auditions for like NSFW animation voiceovers, and it's strange because sometimes it's characters that I've heard of, but they want people to voice over for them in like NSFW situations and try to do a voice imitation. There was one I got for like female Baldur's Gate character, and that was literally all it described it as. But it was like for NSFW, and I'm just like, no, I'm good. I have no interest in doing that kind of voiceover. It was also interesting because I was talking to my teacher about his thoughts on like the ethics of taking on specific roles, because obviously with a media where you're seen, you have to match more of the criteria than your voice, potentially. Like, if they really need someone of a certain race, then obviously they would need an actor of that race. But with voiceover, the actor isn't seen, so if they need certain race, height, age, gender, it's not as obvious. And so I've gotten several audition offers for roles that I am not that ethnicity or cultural background, and I decline them because it's like, these seem like vulnerable stories about personal experiences and personal struggles of this demographic, and I don't want to try and represent that because I'm not that, and I want that to go to someone who is that and who has that personal association to bring to it. Like how I wouldn't want a non-autistic person talking about an autistic person's experience pretending to be autistic. I don't want to pretend I'm any other disability, any ethnicity, or other minority. And then the other thing that I wouldn't do, and I wouldn't do this for any side, probably, is I don't want to do any political voiceover. I don't like politics. I have a political side I tend to be on, but I don't want to do voiceover for that side or the other side or any side in between. I just don't want to deal with any politics. And I know there's a lot of, at least in the US, there are kind of waves of no political auditions and then suddenly like 20 political auditions all at once. And it's just like, I'm good. Same thing with religious things. This was also an audiobook. It was like an 800,000 word Christian audiobook that I was offered to audition for. And it's like, first of all, I don't want to do audiobooks. That's a very long audiobook. And second of all, I am not of that religion. So it's like, I feel like this should go to someone who is that religion or understands that religion more and can bring kind of a personalization to it, because I don't have that. And my teacher says he does sometimes read for little religious segments that he is not, if it's one where he is not having to claim that he is that religion, or that if it's just like an advertisement for such and such religious group's fundraiser or something, he'll do it. But if it's like my experience as a person of this religion, he would not do, unless it was his own. Which I think is how I feel about things too. I don't know, this is really interesting getting into the ethics of like I feel like I've been very aware of, or I'm trying to be as aware as I can be of things like cultural appropriation for both racial and ethnicity type culture, and also like different disabilities, different minorities of any kind, and really wanting them to be represented by the person that experiences it or that connects to it. And I know not all people have that kind of thing, but I feel like for me, I don't want to represent someone that there are probably hundreds or thousands or even more voiceover talent or actors who are actually that, who could and probably do want the role just as much, if not more. Like, number one, it's better to hear about it from someone who connects to it. It will come off as more authentic, and it will also not take that away from them or kind of falsify the testimony of what you're saying. But also, it's supporting whatever minority by giving them the role. Like, I don't know, I know there's a lot of movies where non-autistic individuals play an autistic person, and I know that there are some where they're actually done well, but there's a lot where I feel like if a non-autistic person was actually the person playing the role, they could potentially call out the writers or the directors for doing certain things that are just kind of perpetrating stereotypes that aren't necessarily true. Maybe they can't, who knows? They might not have any control, because I know a lot of times directors and writers kind of get final say, but like, there's certain things where it's like, if you had a person of this actual identity or disability or whatever it is involved in the process, how would that change things? Because there's definitely some issues with autism. Has a lot of really harmful stereotypes surrounding it, and a lot of really generalized things that not a lot of autistic people have, but then there's also other things where it's like, this needs to be talked about more, because if people don't talk about it, then other autistic people won't know and won't understand their own experience. Or people who are not autistic won't understand that autistic people can experience things that aren't just things that fit into kind of media's depiction of what autism is. And I know about specific things related to autism about it, but I'm sure this happens for a lot of other types of individual as well. So, I don't know, it's just kind of, yeah, it's kind of weird to try and figure out kind of the ethics of accepting roles and stuff. And I feel like with voiceover, it's so much easier to pretend that you're something you're not when it comes to accepting a role, especially if you don't have a super specific accent or dialect that is associated with a particular race or something, or if you can conceal a certain dialect or accent that you may have, then I feel like it's very easy to kind of disguise yourself as something else for a role. And I feel like there are some cases where it's like, okay, it's up to the individual if you want to take this role or not. But then there are other times where it's like, I don't feel comfortable taking on a role that has these specifications, because I'm not that, and I don't want to claim to be that, and I don't want to take this role from someone who is. And I've noticed it's interesting because on the specific casting site that I'm on for primarily voiceover, I've had several times where it's like, the algorithm often thinks I'm Hispanic. I'm not Hispanic. But I've gotten a lot of roles that are for Hispanic people where it specifies like Hispanic talent. And to me, that is saying that the person who accepts the role should be Hispanic. But then it's interesting because I've gotten one for like an Asian voiceover, and it sounded more like you don't have to be Asian, but you have to do a convincing Asian accent in English. Which, first of all, there are so many different countries in Asia that all have a completely different accent when people from that country try to speak English, first of all. So, like, what does that even mean? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, because, like, I have quite a few Asian friends, and none of them have the same accent as another friend from a different country in Asia. They have a Japanese speaking English accent, or a Chinese speaking English accent, or a Korean speaking English accent, and it's not the same. And also, to give them all credit, they're all very good at speaking English, even though it's not their first language for any of them. And so, like, good job for all of them for, like, speaking English. Because English is a weird language sometimes. But, you know, it's just like, okay, well, in a situation like that, where it's, like, not specifying that the voiceover person needs to be that race, it's like, then do you audition? I don't know. It's weird. This has been an interesting tangent. Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely, like, something I didn't really think about before I was on this casting website and started getting offers for these auditions that are definitely not what I am. And it's kind of hard because it's a website where they send auditions to you. You don't, like, search through auditions, so you can't really, like... Their algorithm is what sends you things. It isn't, like, you search out specific things. On a few other casting things that I'm on for, like, in-person theater or camera work with, like, your face is seen type roles, there are ways to filter it by, like, age, race, height, gender, all these things that can narrow it down to fit your demographic more, and on those you actually do kind of find your own and apply to them. But yeah, it's complicated. This industry is definitely a lot more complicated than I used to think it was. I mean, I knew it was, like, a really difficult industry, but there's so much when it comes to, like, morals and ethics of auditioning for things I've found that I think is very interesting. I don't know if morals and ethics is exactly the right one. I would maybe say more like self-awareness and awareness of how it would come across for both yourself and others if you are trying to take roles that are clearly not matching to you. Which is also weird because in acting you are essentially always playing someone who is not you. But, like, I don't know, does it make sense what I'm trying to say? That, like, if it's just playing a character who doesn't act like you, that's one thing, but if you're, like, playing a role, whether it's, like, a commercial or a whatever, where you're claiming to be not in a character, you're claiming to be something you're not, I guess. I don't know. Or, like, it's more like if you're claiming to be something that you as a person would never experience. Like, I have played several scenes in the camera class where I had to be, like, a sorority girl or a cheerleader. And those are not me at all. I had no idea how to do that at first, because I'm like, okay, objectively this character is very, very dumb. Not saying cheerleaders and sorority people are, but this particular character was very unintelligent, the sorority one, and then I played a cheerleader who was very, like, down to earth and intelligent, but she was, I didn't know how to play a cheerleader. I don't think I ever will be a cheerleader, but it is something that I could be or could have been if I wanted to, which I think is different than saying like, oh, I'm playing a person of a completely different race. Like, I could never change my race. I could never change my abilities or disabilities to have or not have something that I have. So it's like, I don't want to say, like, I don't want to accept a role in something like that, where it's like claiming to be a thing that could never be me, I guess, if it's something that other people are and have experienced. The one exception to that, I feel like, is gender for me, because I'm not cis female. And so for me, I would take roles that are not completely feminine. I wouldn't audition for a role that is looking for a cis male actor. But especially if it's voice acting, a ton of, like, young boys are voiced by female voice actors in a lot of different shows. And if there's an audition for, like, on-screen work or on-stage work where it's like, I mean, even on stage, I feel like you can get away with being not the same gender as the role a lot more because stage makeup can do a ton. But, like, you know, if I was doing on-camera work and there was a role for, oh, I don't have any more of that, that's fine. If there was a role for, like, non-binary individual, I would be fine playing that. I am not trans, but I feel like I would... That's kind of, like, right on the edge for me, because I feel like I could play that. I know a lot of people who are trans. I have a lot of, like, knowledge about kind of that experience from them. They've talked about it extensively and kind of their struggles and thought process and stuff. So I feel like that's something that I could play, but I feel like if an actual trans person were to want the role, I would kind of want it to go to them more than to myself, I guess. I don't know. Oh, this is cheap. What the heck? Okay. New things. Okay. This went better than I thought. Okay, modern innovations. A modern society needs modern tools. As technology developed, people began producing and receiving music with the new tools available. Alright. Yeah, now it's going back to needing this. So, anyway, this has been an interesting conversation. Hopefully it came across what I was trying to say about what kind of roles I would accept. If you are a performer or actor or voiceover talent or anything of that kind and you do not follow the same things, that is totally fine. This is just my own thoughts about what I personally would do in situations and what I have done in situations of casting and stuff like that. But that's not to say that my way is right and other people's is wrong, or that anyone's is right or wrong. It's just how I do it. So, anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna leave this episode here. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you liked it. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!